Well, aloha, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to PWT Talks NXT. I don't know if I'm muted during the countdown,
You
but
are.
okay, that's good. My cat walked on she has not walked on my keyboard in a long time. But I played okay, now I'm hearing myself like 5 seconds after I speak, and it's driving me
You
crazy.
must have
So
the YouTube tab open with
there's
the
there's a
show.
really good chance.
Hi, guys. We're professional.
Nate, what a night. Okay. Okay. So my stupid cat walks on my keyboard because I have just poured some Sprite. But she hears something getting poured and is like, I should take that, whether it's for me or not. This is also the cat who's a stone cold killer. She just picked a goldfinch out of the air yesterday and just
Nice.
mauled it and killed it. Um, and I walked out and she was trying to eat a goldfinch. And my other two cats, they're like 8 years old, are staring on probably some combination of impressed and horrified because they don't do that. They don't hunt. They just hang out. And Soup she's a stone cold killer, but thankfully she adores me. So I expect not to be killed by her. Let's talk NXT for September the 17th, 2024, a show that was setting up no fewer than 3 weeks worth of action because they're trying to get stuff in place for next week because after all there is a show. The last one on this channel, Nate. And there are shows on the 1st and 8th. I bet you've heard of them. Chicago and St. Louis. So we've got things for our special guests to do. CM Punk will be special referee. I'm sorry, I don't get excited about just a special referee. I was like, okay, there's more, right? No, he's just refereeing the match, and I guess, I mean, that was enough for the live crowd. They thought it was amazing. And Randy Orton will be facing Javon Evans. So Evans hit the lottery here as he will be elevated in defeat because he will be losing to Randy Orton. But that is a hell of a thing for him. That is the definition of fast tracking a guy.
Oh, yeah.
Doing this. So there you go. Your main event segment and your wraparound segment essentially was Page and Williams. Ethan Page and Trick Williams trying to sign in the beginning, but they came to blows instead. At the end, Tyrese Halliburton of the Indiana Pacers came out and he got them to sign and then said, okay, one more thing. And Punk came out. So Azan, in the chat, Azan White says, Kelly counting out Javon Evans already, LOL. Yes, I am counting him out already. He is losing this match. But he will gain something in defeat. Really weird to use Tyrese Halliburton here because like he's for an athlete, he's good in the role, but they kind of tried to, and he's more or less playing the babyface who gets the thing done. And then Page heals on him, cutting down his team, but they're not in his market, so it doesn't land. And then Orlando, to their discredit, they're booing him, which he's not one of the league's bad guys. The league has some of those, believe me. I am a massive NBA fan. And Halliburton is not one of those bad guys. So whatever. But he did heal on the crowd in one moment, which I thought was hilarious. It was like, I get it. If I had to be a fan of the Magic, I'd boo too. Which is a funny line, although the Magic were surprisingly good this year too. So did it work? I don't know, but at least he got to say it. At any rate, Tyrese Halliburton aside, we have our main event set for October 1st. Ethan Page defending against Trick Williams with CM Punk as the guest referee. Punk is Punk is staying babyface on the main roster. He's not turning anytime soon. So I guess, is there any way out of this where Paige doesn't lose the championship back to Trick? And Paige maybe gained something by going heel, going big right away, winning the championship almost right away in NXT before losing it back to Trick Williams, who maybe was planned to be champion at this point and carrying the torch for a little longer. I'm Kelly Wells, social media at Spooky Milk. Nate, talk to me about the main event segment.
Yeah, so I'm kind of with you in terms of like the special guest referee. Like, I mean, it's cool CM Punk's going to be part of the match. I don't know. I don't really get like super pumped about special guest referee matches very often. Or really, I don't know if I ever have. When I think about it, I'd have to think. But so it is what it is. There, like it's fine. I've been talking about Trick Williams probably winning the championship at the CW show, at least for a week or two now. At this point, yeah, I feel like WWE probably wants a feel-good moment on the debut of the CW or NXT on the CW. So I think that's probably how we're going to wind up ending the show is wind up with Trick on top. I'd be very surprised if Ethan Page wins. I wouldn't count it out, but I think I'd be probably a little surprised if Ethan Page retains. From kind of what it seems like so far, it seems like they're building Trick to kind of be in that spot and reclaim the title that he lost to Ethan Page a while back. Plus, I'm wondering if they start to put in any sort of if they kind of play into the fact that both Ethan Page and CM Punk are in AEW and maybe kind of there's some animosity there. Like when CM Punk's music hit tonight, you saw Ethan Page just like he looked like, oh my God, my worst enemy has just come out or something like that. It's kind of look on his face. I don't know if he was overselling it or if it was some foreshadowing into maybe potentially there being something between Page and Punk, but yeah, like I said, I like it. I'm really hoping we do see Trick Williams, recapture that title. I think he's ready to go up to the main roster. Like I think he probably could have gone up with Mello, to be honest with you. But I think it was probably nice that he stayed down in NXT, kind of flagship or was the champion on this show for I don't know, quite a little while here. Make a bit more of a name for himself and then go up to the main roster afterwards. So like I said, I think he could potentially be called up at any moment, but at the same time, I think it'd be nice to kind of see him shoehorned in as the champion again, and kind of lead the NXT brand for a little longer. I mean, he is over like Rover down in NXT. When there was a few months ago at this point, maybe 2 or 3 months ago, I went to Raw, and before the show, they were doing it was, I don't know, maybe an hour or so before the show actually kicked off. We just sat down, and they were just like still testing the LED boards and everything, and Trick Williams' name came up, and like there was quite a few people in the arena, and like there wasn't much of a reaction for Trick Williams' name and Titantron like just kind of showing up real quick. And it happened with other wrestlers. I can't think of who else is like video and all the decor they use when there's an entrance. I can't remember who else's there was, but there was at least like a crowd reaction for it. And there wasn't for Trick Williams, which was a little bit disheartening to me. So I'm wondering what that would mean when he does go up to the main roster. It's like I want to see him down in NXT as champion, kind of on top, be the guy, and hopefully that winds up translating to the main roster.
All right. Sorry, I'm getting distracted here by my my little stone cold killer who wants a belly rub. Okay, so there were matches on this thing. You'll have to take my word for it because this was as light as we were on minutes for quite a while. 32 wrestling minutes out of this hour, 2 hour, 8 minute show. And last week we had was it last week? We
Like
had
it's like 60
65.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a little under half of what we had last time. Two tag matches made up for over 2/3 of that. So I guess we can go to one of those. Well, no, let's not, because the next most important thing wasn't a match. It was CM Punk and his scene with Roxanne Perez. Punk and Perez, all I know is they get along, and he has taken an interest in helping her get to the next level. And he wants to help a lot of NXT people get to the next level, but that is something that we knew about from social media or wherever. And so they had a little scene together. Punk trying to announce his little thing about being the referee, and Perez taking over and putting him over until it was time for her to say, and then you know what I realized? I should have been cheering on Drew McIntyre all along. Very funny to me. Also very fun to hear Roxanne talk about Drew McIntyre. Just a kind of a clashing of worlds that don't feel like they're all together connected, even though we know that they are. And Julia made her entrance, and her words were short and sweet, and said the countdown is on. 2 weeks until I take your title, or whatever she said. So a fairly long scene for Punk ahead of his show 2 weeks from now. I don't think that he'll show up next week because he really doesn't have to, but this was probably very fun for the live crowd. So on that crossover segment, Nate.
I like you said, CM Punk, he's come down to NXT quite a bit. There's rumors that he wants to be Shawn Michaels' successor. I don't know if that's been if those are like substantiated or anything like that, but at least that's the rumor mills that I've been seeing online. So it doesn't surprise me that and we've also seen backstage. I think it was probably like WWE.com type footage or social media footage of him and Roxy backstage, like like you said. So it doesn't surprise me that they're working together here. I mean, Roxanne Perez, she's got to be on cloud nine right now, like working with her absolute favorite wrestler of all time. Or well, maybe not anymore. Maybe it is Drew McIntyre. I don't know. I think she did a fantastic job tonight. Roxanne, we talked quite a bit about Roxanne Perez, as a babyface way back in the day during her, when I say way back in the day, it was like, what, a couple years ago? About, when during her like initial NXT Women's Championship run, and she was, to me at least, she was missing something. She came off as just, I don't know. It was just, I was happy to be here, and that was kind of just her whole character. Now with this whole change, this whole gimmick change and heel turn and everything, she's killing it as far as I'm concerned. Much more conviction on the mic, much more conviction in her promos, and we saw that here tonight. I think even during her entrance, she's playing with the crowd a little bit, and she just has this kind of swagger about her as she's coming out. Um, I'm really impressed with how Roxanne Perez has progressed over the last year or two. Obviously this is a big match between she and Julia. Julia's a big signing. She's a big name. It's going to be her first. I think this will be her first match unless they put her in a match before that, which I can't imagine they will. This will be her first NXT match, first official WWE match. So it's big. It's definitely big. And I think it's cool that, I mean, CM Punk, he's not involved in the match itself, but just to have him involved in the angle not only says, that this is that they have faith in Roxanne Perez and Julia, but it also tells the fans this is something that we should be looking at, make sure you're paying attention to. it kind of just adds that extra shine onto it. So I was a fan. I was definitely a fan. Really looking forward to this match. Roxanne Perez is a fantastic worker. I haven't seen a Julia match bell to bell, so
I mean, you saw one last week against Chelsea Green.
Oh, that's right. We have. Yeah, I have.
I thought maybe I was going crazy in that I saw that somewhere else.
So
I
okay,
looked
her
at the notes
second
last
match.
week.
Her second match.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I can remember what I had for breakfast this morning after the day I had. So yeah. Did I have breakfast this morning? I don't even think I did have breakfast this morning. Yeah. So looking forward to seeing seeing what the two of them actually can do in the ring and where this goes. Does it lead to a Julia run? I don't know. I mean, we saw Ethan Page comes right into the company, wins the NXT championship. Are they going to do that again? Granted, Ethan Page, he had, I think it was maybe, I want to say it was somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks that he was on the roster before he won the title, and he had a few matches and things like that. But are they going to fast track 2 champions in a row like that? I don't know. They certainly could, and I think it would be it wouldn't be out of the question considering the name value that Julia has as coming into the company and all of that. So I'm kind of like, in terms of prediction, I don't really have one for this match because I kind of feel like there could be a 50. Well, maybe I'm leaning a little more towards Julia, but it's like a 55-45 split.
Yeah, I think Julia's winning this. And whether that means Roxy is fast tracking to the main roster or not, I don't know. But she's rubbing elbows with CM Punk, which I feel like is a good sign.
Oh yeah.
Punk also mentioned a bunch of names about NXT current players and recent players that he could be facing down in the ring at any time. Although Punk isn't somebody that they throw in a match just to throw him in a match. He's out there just selling a match until it's time for him to be in one. He's more of an attraction, not necessarily part-time, but not getting into meaningless TV matches at this stage in his career and his body being where it no doubt is. Okay, so let's, I haven't thrown to a match, and why? Because the matches were so secondary this week. That is not what they were trying to accomplish this week. But let's talk about one of the last characters you thought would have a storyline about being having a lack of self-confidence, and that is Tony D'Angelo. So we had a match early on, Hammerstone versus Tony D'Angelo, and Tony D got himself counted out at 254, and he and the family had a scene later where he had to admit he was scared and he walked away from them. Adriana Rizzo catches up with him later on, gives him a little pep talk, and says, if you lose, you lose, but at least you fought through the fear. It's kind of a nice little scene, honestly. And I really like Adriana in this. And it certainly adds something to Tony that was not there before. And I think some would argue, do you want to put this on Tony? But for me, anything that could make him more interesting is not a bad thing. And I really, really like Adriana after this. So cool scene for her. But at any rate, we did have that match, and this storyline. This is like real life 21st century stuff. Very interesting that they're doing this, and real interesting that they're doing it with Tony D, Nate.
No, I honestly, I think the Adriana segment was probably my favorite segment of the night. For a few different reasons. A, it added depth to the Tony D'Angelo character. Like you said, he's been, I don't know, I feel like the character hasn't had much movement in a while. He's just been the Don of NXT, and what you'd expect out of a Godfather-esque type character, and not not that Godfather, the movie Godfather. Um, it kind of, what you expect out of that type of a character. So this kind of adds a little bit of a, I guess, humanization, if you will, to him. Some more emotion behind him. But not only that, Adriana Rizzo herself, I thought she was fantastic in this scene. She's kind of pep talking Tony D'Angelo, saying you're always going to have the family. It doesn't matter if you lose. You tried. You went out there. You gave it your best, and she did it in a way that it didn't seem cliche. It seemed more like a little sister looking out for big brother, something like that. It was cool. So I think it was some great character development for the family in general, for both Adriana Rizzo and for the Don. So thumbs up there. The match itself, I mean, a bit of a, I wouldn't say disappointing finish, but when it happened, I was kind of like, what's going on here? Why is Don just walking away? Obviously, it led to a better story, so I'm cool with that. Hammerstone, though, this guy, like, I haven't, again, not being much of a TNA fan, watching TNA, I haven't been introduced to Hammerstone until literally last week. This guy's a monster. Like, I think we looked it up last week. He was like 26 or something like that. But for being in his mid 20s, like, he's absolutely jacked. It looks like he knows what he's doing in the ring. He's a monster. Yeah, I really enjoyed his match though with Femi last week with Tony D'Angelo here tonight. It was just, I thought he did just as good. Obviously, we didn't get to see a whole lot of him in a 3-minute count out, but still, I'd like to see some more of him here in NXT. He's I kind of, we don't have that many monsters in NXT. We've obviously we've got Obafemi, but it'd be kind of nice to have somebody else like in that, not maybe not quite in the echelon that Obafemi's in, but somewhere, somebody kind of dancing around there.
I thought we decided he was 33 years old. Let's look at this. Yes, 33. But at
Okay,
any rate,
so still,
I thought maybe he was older because he's been kind of somewhat on my radar for quite a while. But yes, he is 33. So time to sign him, I guess, if they wanted to. I don't know if they've got room for somebody like him. It doesn't seem like he's being used to that level. He got to win a match, but it was by countout. Okay. Why not go to one of those tag team matches? Javon Evans and Cedric Alexander versus Tavian Heights and Miles Bourne. Tavian Heights sporting the katakana on his arm and leg. For those of you who can't read Japanese, his arm said Tavian and his leg said Heights. So,
how
so
about
that is
that?
what that is what a year and a month of practice will get me. I can tell you that he was wearing his own name on his body. I mean, it really said Tabian Haitsu, which is how they would pronounce it, but it said his name. So anyway, Heights and Bourne, of course, have to do the job here to Evans and Alexander. Thought that this was kind of a 50-50 going in, but given that Evans was going to be facing Orton, obviously Evans had to go over Miles Bourne. Eats a lot of pins. This was the Iron Man match of the night at 10:27. And Orton was there in spirit as he, I don't know if he tweeted or X'd or MySpaced or
The proper term is zeeted.
Friendstered. Okay. Yeah, at any rate, he will be facing Javon Evans in St. Louis, where Randy Orton will be cheered. Evans is always cheered, but it's going to be an uphill battle getting cheered against Randy Orton. So this tag man, oh yes, Ren Sinclair was out there as well. She had her little scene, Kalani Jordan getting interviewed, and Ren running in and saying, Charles, what's
You
his
know him,
last name?
Dempsey.
Yeah, Dempsey. You know him. And then said, he said, I need to make my mark. So she smacks Kalani and then looks scared and runs away. I love everything that Ren is doing. And Kalani just goes, oh, hell no, and runs after her. I'm really liking Kalani right now, too. So yeah, this is just a 1 weeker. They're just going to get one match out of I don't think that this is going to go further than this, but I hope they continue finding things that they like about Ren, because I really dig what she's doing in there. So on that segment leading into the tag match and the threat of Randy Orton, Nate.
Yeah, as far as the match itself goes, I don't have a whole lot to talk about. I mean, it was a good match. It was a good tag team match. But it was really, I feel like this match was really here just to get to the Randy Orton announcement. Excuse me one second. I feel it was really just there to get to the Randy Orton announcement, which is fine. It's fine. We still get, we get three other people on TV getting to the Javon Evans Randy Orton announcement. I like the pairing between Cedric Alexander and Javon Evans. We've talked about that quite a bit. I think over the last handful of weeks, but they're two that just they kind of naturally seem like they'd go together. I think you said it, Kelly. Cedric Alexander is somebody that was doing the moves like Javon Evans was like 10 years ago. Kind of slowing down a little bit. Not, I shouldn't say it like that, but I mean, you get a little bit older, you can't do the things you used to be able to do. Um, so I think it's kind of cool showing, having that veteran in Cedric Alexander, who's in that same flying style that Javon Evans has, kind of with Javon Evans and kind of teaching him the ropes and things like that. I think that's kind of it's cool, cool position for them to be in. And obviously Tavion Heights, Miles Bourne, no quarter catch crew. They're fine. I'm not. I don't really. I don't want to say I don't care about them, but in terms of who I care about in that faction, it's really Dempsey and Ren Sinclair at this point, and mostly it's Ren Sinclair. Point being is just look at her segment tonight. She's got this great comedic timing. And she's pulling it off week after week. She's kind of been this, I'm going to say, thorn in the side of the no quarter catch crew for a little while, and now part of the faction. But she's trying to, sometimes she's like this voice of reason, and other times she's not. It's kind of almost like she's she doesn't, like, the character doesn't know what she's doing, so she's just like, I'm gonna try whatever I can to make a name for myself. Like, she went out tonight and slapped Kalani Jordan across the face, and looks like we're gonna have a match with I guess technically it's an open challenge for the North American Women's title, but we obviously know who that challenger is going to be at this point, so whatever. It was only an open challenge for all of 15-20 seconds or so. But I'm a big fan of what she's doing, Ren Sinclair's doing, and Kalani Jordan, like you said, they're finally giving her some more depth. Like when she said "hell no" after getting slapped, I mean, it was like this guttural "hell no," kind of almost. I'm wondering if we're going to wind up seeing a bit more fire out of Kalani Jordan last week, because she took the slap personally or something along those lines. But no, big thumbs up for me there. Like I said, the match itself, it was a good tag match. I just there's really not a whole lot to talk about as far as I'm concerned.
The opener was Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley versus Rosemary and Wendy Chu. The opener, I mean, it was like 15-20 minutes into the show, because this show was mostly not wrestling minutes. This was the second longest match and the only other long match at 9:53. Lyra pins Rosemary at 9:53. So the pin combination is people who really don't go here, Nate. But the story is Valkyria and Paxley getting their win here. I don't know if there's a reason to keep Lyra around much longer. It is so weird to see her here so shortly after she left.
Yeah.
But it is helping Paxley get to some level of being realistic. She did that weird spider move that she did to that she has finished a few people with on Rosemary, and it set up Valkyria to finish her. but that was the opening tag, and keeping it with the ladies because there was more stuff going on. Fatal Influence are still all over the place. I still don't know how seriously I take them, but they're trying something with them. Sarah Schreiber got words with them. Then we saw a scene with Lola and Jada trying to get along. That was right afterwards. And at the end of the show, we got Vice versus Jane. Jane is, I mean, it seems like she's getting a push, but she lost this match in 2 minutes and 10 seconds to Lola Vice. The three of them beat down Lola Vice. Jada Parker makes the save, almost gives an accidental back fist to Lola Vice, and then they have to be held apart. So, can these two coexist, Nate? So, on the opening and closing women's tag match, women's matches.
Yes. So I guess I'm looking at your report, and I happen to have the Lola Vice and JC Jane segment up, so I'll talk about that first. I'll be completely honest with you. I missed this match. I ended up going back and watching it, but I walked out of the room during Lola Vice's entrance, and when I came back, the match was over. And I was kind of like, oh, well, okay, that's a thing. But I quickly went back and rewatched it because, DVR. Um, Lola Vice, I see what they see in her. She doesn't necessarily do it for me, but I don't know why. But I definitely see the star power there. And I think she can. I think she could definitely be a big name, or at least a name in WWE. In the future, she's got a lot of fire. And obviously bringing that MMA background into the mix, is certainly doesn't hurt. The match itself was fine for the 2 minutes it was. JC Jane, like, man, in a way, what a fall from grace. Like, she was part of Toxic Attraction. She was in main event segment after main event segment after main event segment with Toxic Attraction. And now we see her. I mean, we didn't see her for a while. It was like maybe every few weeks she'd pop up or whatever. But now, like, she's kind of in this faction, Fatal Influence, with a terrible name. I always want to say Fatal Attraction every time I say it. Um, it's like you said, I don't know how seriously I take this faction either. They want you to take them seriously, but they haven't been booked in a way yet where I feel like they're any sort of a credible threat to the women's champion, the North American women's champion, or even if they wanted to go for the tag titles, and WWE women's tag titles or something like that. I just don't see them as a threat. Azan White in the chat, what happened to Gigi? And that's a good question. Her sign, her name plate is still on her locker in the back. But,
Torn ACL.
There we go. Torn ACL. All right. But yeah, no, actually, I didn't realize that. I just kind of thought she was off TV for a while.
Happened in June.
All right, that makes sense then. She's been off TV for longer than that, though, I feel like. But
they were doing a makeover storyline with her.
With Grace
in May. Let me see if I can find some stuff.
Well, you find that, and
she was already battling a knee injury, and and she's wearing a leg brace. So yeah, she was trying to work through the injury, and then they found out it was a torn ACL, and that's a little more serious. So she's out for
a while and
extended time.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the Fatal Influence thing, but I give them credit for trying. I like Fallon Henley, so I'm hoping that hoping that the group goes somewhere and they're not just kind of floundering like I feel like they are right now. Our opener was Wendy Chu and Wendy Chu, Rosemary, Tatum Paxley, Lyra Valkyria. I'll be honest, I really like the pairing of Rosemary and Wendy Chu, and I don't know why. Obviously, I like Rosemary. I mean, for obvious reasons, but the Wendy Chu character, I've been very vocal on the show of not being a fan of. I do like this nightmare Wendy Chu, the darker Wendy Chu, a little bit better than her old gimmick, but still, I'm confused as to why she's all of a sudden dark. Like we never really got a good explanation, as Greg pointed out to me on Twitter tonight. We never got a real good explanation as to why she became this dark version of herself. We got one vignette of her waking up from like a nightmare, and then okay, that's about it. But I still
I
like the
don't.
pairing.
I don't think we need more than that. Anything more we get is just going to make it dumber.
Oh no, I don't
I think you
necessarily
just,
disagree.
yeah.
Yeah. I forget what I was going to say, but that's fine. Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley. I'm digging everything Tatum Paxley's doing right now. Nothing bad to say about that. But man, Lyra Valkyria, I feel like talk about fall from grace a minute ago with JCJ, and I feel it's almost the same with Lyra. Like she was in NXT as a champion, main events. She was kind of the main event scene in NXT for a while. She goes up to main roster, floundering around a little bit, and then like now she's in segments on the on the main roster and stuff. She was on Raw last night doing something. I watched it and I know I saw her and I can't remember what it was off the top of my head. But then obviously we see her back here tonight just in a tag match, kind of 20 minutes into the show. So, I guess you can't always be at the top of the card all the time, or everybody can't be, but I don't know. I feel like she's cooled off quite a bit since her initial NXT run. Again, the match was good, but um, I kind of still question, like you said, I kind of question why Lyra's down here. Is it just to get Paxley over, or what?
I think so. I think
Yeah,
that's the reason. But at least it's given her something to do while she's being slowly matriculated back into
yeah,
storylines.
yeah, for sure.
There were two other matches on this show: Eddie Thorpe versus Ashante the Adonis. At 328, it was the week's third longest match. Dion Lennox versus Brooks Jensen. Jensen wins this one. Jensen was the only heel to win tonight. At 2:30, he beat Dion Lennox, and it is hard to believe that a guy as strong as Dion Lennox is losing to anyone, especially somebody low down the card like Brooks. But I guess Brooks Jensen and Sean Spears are getting along. So there you go. Those are your other two matches before we get to any backstage stuff and any emails we may or may not have.
All right. So Dion Lennox, Brooks Jensen. Again, I feel like this match was just so short. Like, what we saw was okay, but it was just so short. It was over before it even started. Before you could really even get into it, it was done. I like Dion Lennox. He doesn't really have a character or anything right now. Right now, he's just kind of a guy on the roster that is pretty good. But I mean, we really haven't seen much of him on the mic or anything like that. Obviously, developmental show, so we'll see him develop as time goes on, I'm sure. But for right now, I like what we've seen out of him. He reminds me in both, I guess, in his look, but also in kind of the way he moves sometimes, reminds me of Jason Jordan. So just throwing that out there. The Brooks Jensen, Sean Spears thing, I'm curious to see where this goes. Like it, I feel like it's going to wind up with Brooks Jensen kind of realizing that Sean Spears manipulating him and things like that, and turning on him. But I'm wondering if, like, I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering how they get there, and how long they're going to necessarily drag that out. I'm not like, I don't know. I'm not like, I guess I'm lukewarm on it. I guess is the best way to say it. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just kind of part of the part of the show, and I'm interested to see where this goes. I think Brooks is doing a good job at kind of portraying this newer character. This, I guess, uh, I guess in a way slobbier, because the whole like I guess kind of the idea that he was had a drinking issue or some sort of substance issue or something like that. Um, but yeah, I think he's doing a good job at it. Sean Spears is also doing a decent job, kind of playing the the bad guy here and trying to manipulate him and him being Brooks Jensen. So it works. I don't really have much more to say about that. There was what was the other one you threw at me?
Thorpe and Adonis.
Ah, yes. So this was this Thorpe's first match back from him being gone for a while? I feel
Uh,
like it was.
he's been back. He had his little mini feud with Lexus King, but he's always gone for a few weeks at a time after his feuds. I feel like they don't know what to
I
do with
think
him.
I feel like it was after the Lexus King thing. He was injured for like a little bit and he just came back. But maybe I'm fever dreaming. I don't know. But I big fan of him. Big fan of Eddie Thorpe. Glad to see him get the win here because he was everyone. We'd see him get a win every once in a while, but I feel like he'd lose more often than not. I really like the character. He's I mean, the character's really just kind of an extension of himself and his heritage and things. So I feel like when you kind of play into the heritage, I think the character could be hit or miss, but I think this character hits personally. Yeah, I think what he does in the ring is great, and it kind of also translates into into the character and into the gimmick. So it certainly works. The match itself, again, at 3 minutes, it was over before it could really get started, or 3 minutes and 20 seconds is over before it gets started. So, like, I don't have a whole lot to talk about with the match. It was good for what it was. Um, Ashante, I'm I'm wondering, like, I'm really curious to see where he winds up here in NXT. Like, he's mid card, kind of trying to hit on women backstage and things like that. Um, eh, I don't know. I don't know where he necessarily goes from there. Do you go back up to the main roster at that, with something like that? I don't know. Um, but yeah, I think that's really all I have to say about that. Not much there for me.
You can email us at pwtorchnxt@gmail.com. This comes from Kevin Catani. Salutations, gents. I hope this email finds you well. Boy, I can't wait to see Julia and Roxanne link up. I think they're going to work well together, and it's sure to be one hell of a match. That said, is now the time to switch the belt? Is this the match that officially sends Roxanne to the main roster? Because I certainly don't think you can afford for Julia to take a loss right out of the gate. And I also don't think a schmazzy finish will set the right tone. How do you think this plays out? Also, I still believe in Joe Hendry. Thanks as always. Go VIP and listen to 8YB. Office hours are now over. The Professor, Kevin P. Catani, PhD. Yeah, I wouldn't mind if this was a schmazzy finish. That said, I don't think it will be. I think Julia will win. I'm a lot more than 55-45 on that, but we already covered that. As far as Joe Hendry, I don't know if I'm even supposed to believe in him anymore. I'm starting to think maybe this story is meant to be over in NXT. Because the crowd did Ethan sucks, believe in Joe. Ethan put on some clothes, and the announcers did not acknowledge where that came from. They didn't bring it up.
Oh, is that what they were saying? I couldn't make out what they were saying. All right.
Yeah, they were doing Hendry's song. Ethan sucks, believe in Joe. Ethan put on some clothes. So yeah, they no sold that. So even if Hendry isn't gone, they want us to believe that his story is done. So I don't know. That's all I can say about that. Anything on what Catani sent us, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Julie and Roxanne already, and as far as Joe Hendry goes, I hope it's not the end, but it certainly feels like it. I think this is the third week now without Joe Hendry on TV. If not the third, the second. 'Cause I know he definitely wasn't on TV last week, but I feel like it's the third. Yeah, it seems like his NXT run could be over. But I don't know. I certainly hope not, because man, he's entertaining as hell.
Azam White emails us this. Hi, guys. Number one, I know there are people such as Wade and Dave expect NXT to do over 1 million views on their CW premiere, but looking at the CW weekly ratings, I find it very hard to believe that. Yeah, million's a lot. I'd be surprised by that. These aren't things I look at very often, but I look at them often enough to know that that is a lofty expectation. Number two, with Hammerstone working in NXT, I wonder why he didn't sign with WWE during his free agency period during this year while WWE signed his arch rival in MLW, Jacob Fatu, to a big push. Do you think it's a drug testing issue with Hammerstone? I am not going to throw that out there. Anything's possible, but if he had failed a drug test, I would think that they wouldn't. I mean, I don't know if he's subject to drug tests as part of what he's doing for NXT. I would hope that he is, so it doesn't seem like the TNA guys are getting off easy. I would not throw that out there with without some really concrete evidence
Yeah.
of usage. I also think it might just be a logjam of big dudes, and what is Hammerstone bringing that other guys aren't? And maybe this is where he gets to show that. And number three, what do you think of the usage of celebrities such as Tyler Tonight and local STL celebrity Sexy Red in 3 weeks in NXT? I often don't know where celebrities are from unless they're from here. So I didn't know that Sexy Red was St. Louis based. So there you go.
I didn't either.
I think you might as well use her there. I'm a little surprised she's being used again because she did some very risque dancing that they made to shoot in that they had to shoot in a very specific way, and it seems like they cut away quickly. So they're like, "Oh, we can't show everything she's doing." I'm already kind of forgetting how that played out, but I remember thinking, I wonder if they knew what they were going to get when she was actually on screen. I don't mind the usage of celebrities in small Tyler. Oh, he means Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah, I in the right context. With Halliburton tonight, I just kind of don't get it. I know that they brought him in on the main roster on whichever pay-per-view it was. He was present. No, maybe it was just a weekly show. So they knew that he could kind of do it, but it was very odd to have him doing like essentially a babyface thing for the Pacers, who are not in the Orlando market. So I don't know why they decided to press ahead with that. And it's not the first time that they did local team heat for a team that was not local. Even at NXT 8 years back, Tom and I were just recently covering that, and there was some other cheap team heat that they were trying to do because they were pushing for, I think it was cutting on the Brooklyn Nets because the pay-per-view was going to be in Brooklyn, but this was in Orlando, so it didn't make sense. So I don't mind using them in the right context at all. I don't need their fingerprints all over the show, but to bring maybe a few more eyes, whatever, or just to make it seem like it's big and it's the cool thing to like. Sure. Anything on this email, Nate?
So in terms of the, CW premiere bringing in 1 million people, I think it's a lofty, and again, Wade Keller, Dave Meltzer, they know a hell of a lot more about ratings than I do. They, watched them very closely. Wade, I feel like more especially than Dave, but so I'd defer to them. But knowing what I do know, I feel like 1 million is a lofty expectation, but I feel like it's doable. CW NXT is going to be the only show on broadcast TV. I'm going to walk away as I close the door because the dog just came back in. But it's going to be the only WWE show on broadcast TV, so it has the potential to reach more eyeballs than Netflix or USA Network, I think. But again, how many people do you know that actually just get over the air TV? I don't know. Now, maybe more than you think in the age of cord cutting, but I don't know. I think a million is possible, but I mean, Raw draws what I think 100, 1.5, 1.6 mil, or at least that's what Wade's report said for this past week, anyway. So that's I don't know. Trying to get to that close to Raw with NXT, I feel like is going to be it's gonna be tough. Um, in terms of Hammerstone working with them, why he didn't get signed by WWE during his free agency, I'm not going to speculate because I don't know. So I'm not even gonna go there. Um, in terms of celebrities, I'm I'm always torn with using celebrities. If the celebrity is a fan of the WWE, go for it because they know what they're getting to. Like Jon Stewart, when Jon Stewart came in, you know, he hit Seth Rollins with the chair. Like you could tell he was having the time of his life in the ring, right? Um, eh, but like in Sexy Red, I had no idea who she was before she showed up on NXT. And matter of fact, I haven't thought about her until tonight when they brought her up again. Um, but she obviously has a name value. People like her. I'm not, and she is seemingly a WWE fan. So I'm fine with something like that. It's when you bring in, oh God, I can't remember who the hell those two celebrities were when Raw was doing the guest host every week, but then they called it Summerfest instead of SummerSlam. It's when you bring somebody in like that doesn't know the business or they're not fans of wrestling. Like, um, I don't know. It just
I
to me, it's
mean,
just weird.
they've brought in announcers who did that. Mike Adamle
Yeah,
came
Mike
in,
Adamle,
and the first thing he did was refer to Jeff Harvey,
Harvey.
who was main eventing at the time. Michael Buffer only has one job, and that dumbass said Bret the Hitman Clark when he had to announce two names. Yeah, Azan brings up the fact that it was Dr. Ken and Jeremy
Yes,
Piven. I
that's who it
I
was.
saw that week, and they played heels that week, so I guess that part of that worked. But
Yeah,
yeah, Summerfest.
yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think Tyler tonight, I think he did really well in his role. For somebody
Tyrese
that's not
Tyrese
Tyler.
Halliburton.
Oh, well, okay. I was just reading Azan's email
Yep,
and it
I
said
know.
Tyler.
It's yeah.
So, all right,
Yep.
thank you. But I'm not a basketball guy either, so Um, but I think he did a great job in the role that he was in. Like he's not an actor; he's an NBA. He's a basketball player, and I think he did all right.
Okay. Anything else on this thing? Zach Wentz and Wes Lee. They sure don't like each other, Nate. It seems like this tag match isn't going to happen. They won a match to get a tag team championship match, and it looks like they're not going to get it. It doesn't seem like Trey Miguel is going to be back on this show, but anything can happen. They are saying that it is over. MSK is over after this match. So this is where Wesley wins, probably. But at any rate, they gave Wentz more mic time than he ever had in his first run here in the company. So I guess that was cool for him. Thea Hale, she's heartbroken. Riley Osborne, he's pissed. He's gonna face Ridge Holland. That's next week because that isn't big enough to go to Chicago or St. Louis. Brooks Jensen and Spears, we saw that. Waller in Theory, they want to face Fraxium. So they are going to do that. They're going to get a championship match. And ahead of that, next week, we've got the Waller effect on NXT. So I believe that ties a bow on the segments that were on this show, Nate.
So Waller in Theory, it'd be cool to see A-Town Down come back to NXT. They were never in NXT at the same time, and I only remember that. Well, they were kinda, but Grayson Waller didn't really debut until after Austin Theory was up on the main roster, and I only remember that because they showed it was still during the COVID era, and they showed like the wrestlers in the crowd like as the fans, and there was this one guy in the crowd like that looks like Grayson Waller, and I thought it was, but it was Austin Theory. Sorry, other way around. That looks like Austin Theory, but it was Grayson Waller. So cool to see them come back to NXT and do their thing. I think the match should be great. between Fraxium. I don't like that name. I don't think I'm going to say it again. Between Nathan Frazier and Axiom and A-Town Down, I think should be a good match. Do I think A-Town Down's going to win? No. I'd be very, very surprised, especially considering these guys just won the titles back. Let's see, and then the other one, Trey Miguel, and Zach Wentz. Obviously, like we were talking about, they had the opportunity to face tag champs and all of that. Doesn't look like looks like there's actually a legitimate injury to Trey Miguel. And they're kind of playing into that now in NXT with the footage that we saw. If you notice the footage, the security footage that Zach Wentz had Evan in the truck play was it said that it was from September 8th, which was a Sunday, oddly enough. But whatever. I figured maybe they'd show it from like a Wednesday, but that's fine. So, kind of saw that attack and everything. So at least they're giving us a storyline reason for it, and all of that. But it looks like it is a legitimate injury to Trey Miguel, according to, I think it was according to Meltzer. But yeah, I like the fact that we did see Zachary Wentz come back and kind of, we're trying to, I guess, finish up this storyline with Wesley. I thought it was going to be over. I didn't think we'd see it after their last match, but we're going to get one more. It's going to be a street fight. I think it should be fun. I don't think we're going to be getting your traditional like Wesley type of a match. We see a lot of high flying stuff. We probably will, but I think we're going to see a lot more brawling through the arena, through the backstage area and things like that. They're going to try and play up the fact that this is like a blood feud, and anytime they do that, they start fighting through, especially in something like a street fight, they start fighting through the building. So go back to like the Ciampa Gargano street fight where they're like fighting outside and all of that, and on the backs of the big rigs and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to it. I think the segment was good. I like the fact that he just jumped out of the crowd and kind of like almost interrupted the show. It kind of makes it feel a little more real. Obviously, if he did really just jump the crowd, security would take him out of there pretty quick. But suspend your disbelief a little bit. But yeah, I think it's a fun angle.
That, folks, I believe is our show. I'm Kelly Wells, and you can find me on social media at Spooky Milk or at spookymilk.games. Nate, we've got lots and lots of stuff to look forward to. They took a week off of wrestling in order to tell us that.
Yeah. We had half as much wrestling this week as we did last week. But NateLindberg.com. That's where you can check out the things I do.
All right, folks, that is that, and we will see you in 7.